Hi, this is Arham Said Qadri, and I would like to start by quoting James Baldwin. He says that I can't be a pessimist because I am alive. To be a pessimist is to agree that human life is an academic matter, so I'm forced to be an optimist. I'm forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive. This quote, it instills hope in me, it encourages me, but it also reminds me of a conversation that all of us had in early April when we were just starting to get to know each other. I posed a question on our Skype group saying that how do you people go on with everything that you do? That because I was looming with hopelessness at that point of time, I couldn't see a light. So while many said that we feel how you feel, we've been there, others said that yes, it happens, but let's get up and move ahead. The interesting thing that Ramit said was that if you want to see the good here, it's that you are not comfortable with the situation. And when one is not comfortable with the situation, it strives change. So that was my start to becoming a change maker with hope to leave the world a better place. When the FAIR team when the FAIR team asked us to speak about something that we were most passionate about, I was confused. Many of the problems are so interlinked, and to choose only one seemed very difficult to me. But then when I started to think about it, I thought that the root cause, the main problem, is that we're losing humanity. With all the news that we hear each day, it confirms that we're losing the point of being humans. Empathy, care, compassion, they're all decreasing. And the thought that we are superior and the others are inferior is on the rise. Othering of particular communities, whether it be on the basis of caste, religion, gender, ethnicity, it is increasing day by day. Othering refers to the practice of attaching negative connotations to a community or group of people. And this othering increases with the propagation of stereotypes towards the same. I'll give you a very quick example of how the northeastern people of India face discrimination and othering when they come to the mainland. Exactly. The whole point of that we call this the mainland and that the periphery in itself shows othering. As a child, when we start to establish the world around us, we try to make sense of it. We understand it through the associations that we've formed. We understand it through our family, through our parents, our siblings, our peers, then our school. We form these associations. We are born into this culture. We are born with labels and biases of gender, religion, culture, and many more. The stereotypes that boys and girls can't be friends and the little boys and girls don't want to be friends with each other is how it all stems. The other thing that these people are different than us, I think they're weird. Let's stay away from them. All of this shows the initial divide that a child experiences because of the biases and stereotypes that we hold within ourselves. So all this othering leads to ghettoization as well. Now, what is ghettoization? It's that where individuals are pushed to live in a particular place in order to feel safe. Yes, they have to live with less amenities and facilities, but they choose to live there. In fact, I would say that they're pushed to live there because the normal mainstream world would not accept them for who they are, and they feel threatened because of it. The push, discrimination and vilification is where we lose humanity. I'll give you a very simple example of how the idea of othering exists in our society. We all have had those two different sets of utensils, one for the family and one for the house help that comes or any workers that comes across our house. Why do we have that? Why do we feel the need to have two different sets of utensils? It stems with the basic idea of treating people differently on the basis of their occupation, on the basis of their identity. Just giving you an example, I'm trying to put forth my idea of how othering happens. My conversation with othering came to a central light during the Delhi riots of this year. A poster was circling around in our WhatsApp group that said, "Subtle forms of othering include sitting in classrooms while others die." It had quite an impact on me because I myself was trying to distract my mind from all the misery by sitting in a conference. I was sitting there trying to listen to scholars talk about the agrarian crisis, but I just could not listen to them. I could not understand them because all the misery was yet circling in my mind. And although the poster, it highlighted othering in quite a radical sense, but it also held me accountable to my privilege. I was sitting in an air-conditioned classroom while the corner of my city was suffering and suffering gravely. And now please understand why I'm using the corner here. Because the workers had pushed the Northeast Delhi compromises of a major low working class population. So those workers are pushed to the periphery of the city and are never given the right to the city. They're not considered as city dwellers. And that's why they were in the corner. And I, being the privileged person, was sitting in an air-conditioned classroom. Privilege is the advantage available to people based on their standing in the society. Now, this standing is determined by the identity that they hold. Now, again, I'm reiterating the fact that identity does not stand in isolation with the society or the biases that the society has within it. So, again, it consists of the privilege and underprivilege that entails with all the different identities that we hold with ourselves. The historical disadvantage of people gives rise to one's privilege. It is not merely economic in nature. A society like ours, the privilege that we have is not economic in nature, but has a hierarchy, social hierarchy and power structure of it. For example, when a person from the so-called lower caste community gains economic mobility, the person would gain economic mobility, but will not be accepted into the society as a higher caste person would. Most of the times, our privilege does not make us realize the atrocities that happen in the society because it does not affect us directly, and hence we fail to recognize it altogether. I'll give you an example that when I myself passed my 12th standard, I was against reservation. Yes, because I thought that, okay, we needed it when we got independence. Okay, it's been 60 years. Let's get done with it. And I see the general public is now suffering. I really did believe that. It was only after that I interacted with different people, studied more about it, that I realized the importance of reservation, the importance of people coming from those communities, taking a public space, standing up for themselves, moving forward, and further strengthening their stand in the society. Yes, my privilege never made me see the atrocities that these communities had faced. It broke my bubble. I started to realize how things happen and why things happen. I'm not here to vilify any privileged person and put them on a trial goat. I'm here to profess the idea of understanding our privilege, the power and the space it holds, and evolve from it and use it for people who are disadvantaged. When I use my privilege to understand the action of others and hold it accountable, even when it doesn't affect me directly, it provides a little space for the historically disadvantaged to make their own stories shine. I'm not asking here to give up your privilege. I don't think anybody can give up the privilege. But I'm asking you to use it for the underprivileged because our privilege stems from the disadvantage of somebody else. Not saying that we are doing something wrong, but then again, who are we and who are they? We need to break these walls and divide. We need to break these stereotypes and try and understand the person beyond that wall of assumptions. Understanding each other to bring a greater humanity. the use of my voice to a person who is historically denied the same is important. It is important. I'll end with a famous quote of Martin Luther King Jr. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Thank you so much.